I would be a hypocrite if I started out and said, I don't approve of a stormwater utility. I've come before several of you in the past asking for a stormwater utility. The reason is, it's a dedicated fund that must be used for the purpose it's charged. That isn't paying off a bond for things that you committed to previously. That isn't for adding other things. And what I'm going to say to you, this isn't ready for prime time. You're pushing this through for one reason that I can think of that makes sense. And that is to make sure you still have your majority vote to be able to pass this.
In the past, stormwater facilities were included on private homeowners' property, HOA property, and even a combination of the two. Most HOAs and/or homeowners do not have the expertise or money needed to maintain a facility on their property. This did not work. To compound the issue, some HOAs are no longer in existence. The solution to future problems was to have new developments put these facilities on a separate lot with access to a street. These were supposed to be turned over to the county once the county verified these were up to code by the developer. Cobb County Stormwater Management has the expertise to maintain these structures. Now we are learning that this never happened in a lot of cases. Why not? Now the county wants to go back to the old way of requiring HOAs to bear the responsibility and expense of maintaining stormwater facilities. The safeguard to make sure this happens is the requirement that a mandatory HOA be established that spells out in its covenants that the HOA is responsible for maintaining the stormwater as well as giving them the authority to collect money to do so. Who in the county is going to look at the covenants, make sure they contain the appropriate language and are filed? Who in the county is going to make sure adequate fees are collected for stormwater management? The county has said they do not enforce HOA covenants. Are they going to do so now? Or is the county planning on using the legal system as a way to force property owners, HOAs, to comply?
Existing homes were limited to a maximum impervious surface when they were built. The recent excessive development of multifamily housing, such as apartments and condos, is what has led to this issue, not existing homes. Therefore, developers themselves should be responsible to pay for additional infrastructure through impact fees or charges based on the amount of impervious surface they create when they build new developments.
I've lived in the same spot for about 75 years. This is really interesting. It's like shooting at a moving target. And this all seems to be about money for the county. And what you're proposing will not stop flooding as long as you continue to allow the current rate of destruction of natural areas. Home footprints have decreased. Yards are the size of postage stamps. Houses are crammed together and they cost $500,000. The entire footprint of these residential developments are now impervious. As long as you continue to allow row house and connected town home developments, which are really condominiums, flooding will continue no matter how much money you take from homeowners and businesses. You have to stop replacing tree canopies with tightly packed roofs. If you are serious about stopping flooding, declare a moratorium on future developments that engage in clear cutting and soil strip mining and get professional help.
Sir, your time's up in 3 minutes.
A 40-year resident of Cobb County. As I understand this in a nutshell, money that was supposed to work on stormwater management was put in the general fund and allocated to other purposes. In order to acquire more funds, you have a three-prong approach. Number one is to divest responsibility for certain infrastructure assets, dump them on the homeowner for management. Item number two, for that privilege, you're going to charge a fee. Not a tax that we could vote on, a fee, which you already state you plan on raising in 2025. And then the third way is by charging the homeowner when they don't maintain these assets according to your standards. What standards? We don't know what standards. If we knew what the standards were, we might not accept responsibility for that asset. Basically, this is not acceptable. if you vote for this, I will do everything in my power to keep you from being on this board after the next election. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, Commissioners, my name is Richard Grome, and I am here representing East Cobb Civic Association. Section 122.301, we believe that definitions should be consistent throughout the code to avoid confusion. Section 122.304, scope of responsibility. It now says that the that the county water system may provide stormwater services. Well, considering how much we're paying, we think that should be shall provide stormwater services. Section 122.305. I know what Ms. Jones interpreted the proposed code to say. Unfortunately, that's not what it says, at least not what I've read. First of all, is putting a lien on a homeowner's property whose entire savings is that house, is that the answer? I don't think so. We're led to believe that this was just moved over from Chapter 50. No, there's no place in Chapter 50 that says you can put a lien on a residential property. It says you can put the lien on a commercial or industrial property, but it does not say a residential property. Language has been added to the revenue bond issue. Now it's not just for stormwater management utilities, but it's for the water system and or stormwater management utilities. The customer shall be required at their own expense to provide any required supplemental information. Gathering this information is time-consuming for the customer and could be very expensive. I called a surveyor today and said, listen, if I need an impervious surface survey done on my property, R20, how much would it cost? $975. Okay. The county proposes not to reimburse any customer cost, even if the county is wrong. Stormwater manager makes the decision whether or not to make any adjustment to the fee. If this is appealed, then the director of the water system makes the decision. Now, we were told that after that, it comes to you. Now, that's not in the code. That's not what I read in the proposed code, unless it was put in this afternoon.
Hello, my name is Mary Jane Burma, and I moved into my property in 1973 and became the proud owner of my first home, which had a pipe running under the road through my yard. A new builder built homes, which I became flooded. And when I called Cobb County, they said, well, you don't have a pipe on your property. And so they came out and I showed them the pipe and they just said, well, I don't know, it's not nowhere to be seen. So I have the pipe, I have the flooding. I had a new builder, which I was supposed to have improvement. The first big rain flooded me out. They ran plastic strips all through my backyard. Looked like Noah's Ark is what I needed. So I would like to just ask you and just say one thing. Shame on you, Cobb County. Shame on you. How dare you push your stormwater responsibilities onto Cobb citizens, to families, retired or disabled senior citizens. Those of us who have lived and raised families and paid taxes into the system for the past 50 years are now going to be asked to shoulder more taxes and expenses even into the grave. Shame on you. You just must want to take our properties, otherwise you would not propose these new expenses. There are 3 new subdivisions on my street now, and instead of the builders paying for the added stormwater, citizens who stand to gain nothing from the $1 million homes are being asked to pay up when they can least afford it. How in the world do you expect senior citizens or young families to take on Cobb County's infrastructure problems? And there's been little let up at the grocery store, the gas pump, or the utility companies.
In February 2022, I spoke to you about the damages our property and home had occurred from the September 2021 flash flood. We experienced damages to our basement, had to replace the furnace, and repair our hot water heater. On top of that, we discovered a massive sinkhole in our backyard and a crushed culvert pipe that was part of the infrastructure to allow water to drain into Soap Creek downstream from us. This pipe crosses over 3 properties and is 100% buried on our property. This pipe was put in the late 70s in order for the builder to develop the last 3 plots of land in our neighborhood. And this pipe sits close to our foundation and had to be put in prior to our home being built. It was not until this flood happened did we discover our plat was not drawn correctly and that we are also responsible for maintaining this infrastructure. This is not a normal home repair that owners expect to take on. My neighbors and us paid over $100,000 in repairs, of which $60,000, and let me repeat, $60,000 was to replace just the pipe and fill in the sinkhole that was threatening the foundation of our home. And we had quotes for $85,000 and up just to get the culvert pipe and sinkhole repair. And as a reminder, no home or flood insurance covers damages to the property. It only covers the home. I had to work 2 full-time jobs to pay for these repairs on top of my husband's full-time job. I don't ever want to do that again. And frankly, I am sick and tired of talking about or thinking about stormwater. And while I wholeheartedly agree something needs to be done, and I applaud Ms. Jones for trying to put an updated plan together, but unfortunately, I do not agree with the stormwater tax fee, or whatever it is, how it stands. I do not agree that the county can pick and choose which pipes it will maintain. It is not fair that some people can avoid this hardship where there are many of us who are left on the hook for these repairs. This tax or fee, whatever it is, will not prevent this type of damage from happening to our home again, since funds collected will barely be enough to cover the backlog of those who are lucky enough to have the county pay for their repairs. I do not agree that the county can put a lien on our property if we don't make the repairs. It was a nightmare to find a contractor that was willing to make the repairs and who could purchase a replacement pipe, because again, this is not a normal repair. You can't hop down to Home Depot and pick up a 5-foot diameter, 40-foot long corrugated steel pipe. And while my neighbors chose to move once the repairs were completed, this doesn't solve the problem. This just passes the live grenade to someone else.
The stormwater system is in need of repair, has been neglected for decades, and it needs additional funding. The numbers: current stormwater collections are roughly $8 million. The proposed budget requests a total of $17 to $19 million annually. The requested increased funding is therefore $9 to $11 million. Where we disagree: this is a money grab, not a plan. This is a strategy to codify this as a fee rather than a tax so future boards can raise the fee structure at will. We robustly demand that this agenda item be tabled until a well-thought-out plan, engineered drawings, and implementation strategy are put before the board and the public. The plan should include a thorough inventory of all the existing systems, piping, and structures to document exactly what is and what isn't the responsibility of private property owners. Post it for all to see. There is currently a stormwater fee based on water usage. Some of those fee dollars were shifted away from the stormwater system for over 30 years, which allowed it to rot in the ground. The transfer of $15 million of the water department to the general fund should stop immediately and relocate that money to stormwater. You tell me that only $500,000 of that $15 million is from stormwater revenue, but you can reappropriate it to stormwater. You managed to find $25 million weeks after the 2024 budget for the unbudgeted sheriff's facility remodel. So why not $15 million more now? Is this less of a crisis? You should implement an impact fee program immediately on new developments. You tell me that if you were to implement impact fees, there are state law restrictions on how that money can be used. Really? Now state law matters to you after you decided using home rule to redraw district maps in 22 is okay? Why not use your home rule powers again to circumnavigate the state laws, since you've shown us by example you believe you have that authority? You said today that tough choices must be made sometimes. Why do your tough choices always result in more money from us instead of making wish list cuts on your own, like your $1 million discretionary fund? Why do you always have excuses but never reasons? Today you mentioned impact. You failed to mention impact fees. Is that because developers and other large businesses are big campaign contributors which influence decisions? I would love to see a readout of that recent meeting with businesses you alluded to today.
65 years ago, neighborhoods got built. One house invariably ends up at the bottom of 2 hills. That house got a stormwater drain in their yard to deal with all the water from the houses on the hills above. Today, Cobb County admits, well, they lost the records and they'll maintain all the infrastructure you can prove in court. Otherwise, that one unlucky taxpayer gets to drown in an $8,000 bill to fix it. Making them pay to fix neighborhood infrastructure is called equitable, because without those records, it's what a court of equity might do. Meanwhile, the fees to maintain that infrastructure have been drained into the general budget for any 5-year plan this triumvirate wants. A fair policy wouldn't pretend that a regressive tax on existing property is a solution to fund the infrastructure demands of new development. A fair policy wouldn't demand taxpayers pay to refill monies siphoned off for political purposes. A fair policy wouldn't put a lien on grandma's house of 30 years because the county lost the paperwork. This board wants to rob Grandma Peters to pay developer Paul because it suits their agenda, not any higher purpose. Fairness demands you reconsider this equitable regressive tax.
If you Google rain tax today, right now, you'll find that Toronto, Canada is currently discussing the same topic. I bring that up because this isn't an organic discussion. The reason that you're not worried about your jobs come next election is because you have bigger plans. I come here today to show some of that to the rest of the people here. The book I'm holding in front of me is called The Nature of Sustainable Development. This is written by Ms. Sharon Beater. This is a college textbook from 1993. And I'm going to read to you on chapter 14, what is equity? It represents a belief that there are some things which people should have, that there are basic needs that should be fulfilled, and that burdens and rewards should not be spread too divergently across the community. That policy should be directed with impartiality, fairness, and justice towards those ends. Jim Falk, 1993. What I bring to you here is the housing assessment for Cobb County, 2023, last year. Page 2. Let me read to you what it says on page 2. Equity represents a belief that there are some things which people should have, that there are basic needs which should be fulfilled, that burdens and rewards should not be spread too divergently across the community, and that the policy should be directed with impartiality, fairness, and justice towards those ends. And I ask you, where did this information come from? It came from a United Nations speech in 1990 called Our Common Future. I stand before you here today, everyone here. You voting these commissioners out will not end this. It has to go beyond, and you all know where you're coming from, and you know where this is coming from. Anyone who supports ESG, DEI, or sustainable development will follow the path of these commissioners, and you need to address everyone who follows.
My family came here escaping communism. We personally experienced it. Communists just come in with the help of social media and take what you own. They go after the owners of businesses, the owners of property, the owners of industry. Read your history.
Ms. Cupid, when you were elected the district commissioner, I for one thought that you were great. I remember you sometimes having your two sons would be sitting on the floor in the corner as you engaged with the people of our community. I believed in you so much that I contributed $500 to your re-election campaign, even though you didn't have opposition. But that's just how much I believed in you. But now today, if there's a way for me to get a refund, I would love to have my $500 back, is you lost your love for our community. And according to your LinkedIn page, your longest employment was the Board of Commissioners. I mean, every job that you had, it was either 1 year or less. So I did an open records request with from the Human Resources Department to inquire as to how many staff members you had in 2018. This is a partial list here, but this is 8 people on here, and you can add about 6 or 8 more to this list. These are the amount of employees that you've gone through as assistants from 2013 up until now. One of them even being, I believe it was your first cousin whom you tried to block from obtaining employment from the county, but Mike Boyce being the person that he was, he found her employment with the county because she had just recently bought a home and she needed a way to pay her house note. You call this leadership that you're doing, but I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you. This is more of a dictatorship. Since you've been in that middle seat, we lost the stormwater director, we lost the code enforcement director, we lost the DOT director, we lost the public safety director, we lost the police chief, and we lost the director of public services, all since you have been in that middle seat. This is what you have cost the county. There's a reason county staff and employees are fleeing this county in massive numbers. And maybe you need to take a look in the mirror and look at that person that's looking back at you, because it doesn't look nice to us as citizens of Cobb County.
Commissioners,
Excuse me, just go ahead and state your name for the record again.
my name is Sally Grubbs.
Thank you.
Not that it's really relevant, but I'm the chairwoman of the Cobb County Republican Party. And as Rahm Emanuel said, you never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things you think you could not do before. Well, I propose to you tonight, as I sat here and listened, first of all, Commissioner Richardson, thank you for showing some rational thought tonight. I do not address these comments to Commissioner Gambrell nor Commissioner Burrell, but I will say you are ruining this county, and we are tired of it. And I know you don't care. I don't think that you are the mastermind of the thought that goes into what you're doing, but you see the stormwater utility situation as a way to push through an agenda and amend codes to put the burden on we the people, and we the people are tired of it, and we are not going to take it. Now, I had the benefit of sitting here this evening among a lot of friends, and there's Democrats that I have that are friends too, and you know what? They're tired of the burden as well. And so you have outed yourself. I educated myself on Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, and I'll never forget, Commissioner Richardson was at an event that I was at, and I mentioned it to her, and she was like, I've never heard of that before. Well, I've got some oceanfront property on Whitlock Avenue to show you, because I know better.
Your actions and your words and the verbiage used to implement these policies is straight out of Agenda 21, the Rio de Janeiro Agreement. So you need to understand the Green New Deal and all these policies are geared to take private property rights away. We have rights in this county, and we had people that did great at planning. And if you don't know what you're doing, then I'm sure Dr. McMorris would be happy to call up some of the veterans that ran these systems for years. And yes, stop the building. If you can't manage the stormwater that we have, then stop the building. We have a crisis on our border, and I haven't even touched the election situation because you were lawless. You think you are above doing what is right by Cobb County people and according to the laws of the state of Georgia and according to the judgment of a judge of the Superior Court of this county. And it's time for it to stop.